Guys, we've been recording for almost 2 hours. This is supposed to be a short chapter and a shorter episode.
I'm don't girl. Girl. I've been trying,
uh,
okay?
no, I'm not blaming you at all. I'm blaming all of us. It's a joint effort.
It is more than a joint. And also, when did we ever think that threshing and the presentation and everything else were going to be short episodes?
I know. This podcast discusses a non-stop, thrilling adventure fantasy series set in the brutal and competitive world of a military college for dragon riders, which includes potential spoilers for all published material. This episode includes elements regarding death, perilous situations, pregnancy, bodily functions, and explicit language, including sexually explicit language. Listeners who may be sensitive to these elements, cross the parapet at your own risk and prepare to enter the Wing Raiders. Welcome to the Wing Raiders, where we deep dive into the Empyrean series chapter by chapter, theorize and overanalyze. I'm Abby.
I'm John.
August Ishmisha Cassie.
And today we are covering Fourth Wing Chapter 12, Part 2. Here is your friendly reminder that all published material is fair game, so please continue at your own risk. And we just jump right into where we left off from Part 1. So without further ado, John is going to get back into the recap.
We get this amazing comparison from Violet that there's a couple of, I think it was greens, I just looked away from the line. Nope, a set of browns that are slightly smaller than her mother's Aimster, but not by much. So, like, Violet is very adequately and intimately aware of Aimster's size and physique and look and everything. And so I have this image in my brain of Mama Sorengale popping out babies, and every time she gives birth to a child, at some point having to hike to wherever Aimster can meet her so that she can present the baby before Aimster. Like, I have this image of toddlers running around this Aimster, and Aimster having to be like, I understand they're your children, but I'm gonna step on one of them.
They're like little bugs.
While I love the headcanon, I do want to point out that in, I believe, Chapter 3, when they get the dragons on the wall, she says, even though I've, like, grown up around this, they've never let me get this close.
That she remembers. Do you
That's
remember
true. Okay.
everything that happens the day you were born?
No.
I mean, not much before I turned 3.
I know, and so that's like, she's, clearly
fair,
Violet
fair,
is
fair,
aware
fair.
of Aimster, even if she's not aware of other dragons. And so that's just my question is, like, is my headcanon accurate that once riders start having children, the dragons will show some interest in the rider's progeny?
I don't know, like, would they care? I kind of feel like they're like, that's not my rider, I don't care.
Yeah, but your rider made that shit.
So?
Okay.
I can see them being very disinterested because they didn't make any choices about it.
If we're likening dragons to cats, I will tell you that when I brought home my babies, my dogs were thrilled and all up on them and all up on me, like, oh my god, Mom, you did so good. And my cats are like, okay, but are you going to pet me? So if we're going with that comparison, they wouldn't care.
Okay. I'm just like, can you imagine having this dragon that's been in your mind for years and you're so intimately
Yes.
connected with each other, and then you become pregnant and it's like, oh, great. I'll see you in a couple of years when you're done with that problem.
They might not, like, completely detach from the, like, they might still be around.
I'm just
They're just not
envisioning
gonna-
Aimster in Mama Sorengale's brain when she's pushing, like, you will not die from this!
Yeah, I believe that.
Either way, like, I don't believe that a dragon can be so, like, connected and intertwined with their rider, and that something like this would happen in the riders' lives and the dragons would not have some involvement, even if it wasn't an interest
Fair.
to see the baby, but still a willingness to let their rider show them the baby.
Sure.
Because
Potentially.
I could get up
you
for
gave
that.
birth to 2 little kids. I'm pretty sure you enjoyed showing the baby to everybody in the day after.
Yes.
So, I don't know. It's just a weird headcanon that I've had going in my brain for quite a while now.
I'm just picturing when you, like, hand your cats things to sniff, and they're like, oh, yeah, I really want to sniff that. Oh, no, that's boring.
Yeah. They take like, okay, I'm done. And it's really funny to me because sentence by sentence, it's 2 different perspectives again. Violet looking at a set of browns and thinking, heh, you're kind of small compared to Aimser. And then you got Rhiannon like, I know I saw the dragons at Parapet, but they are bigger than I thought they'd be. It's just
And then
amazing
Violet,
to
the
me.
queen of deflection here, is like, so, what about that niece or nephew?
Right, it's 2 options. Either I can enthrall you with a long story of history that you will not remember a detail of, or you can do some talking.
Yep.
I do want to say that talking about technology is that the midwives of this fantasy world are able to tell with pretty good accuracy the sex of the baby before the baby is born, which I think is very interesting, and I wonder how that is done. And maybe if Violet is pregnant, we will find that out.
Yes, that as well. But, like, there is a lot of historical accuracy to that concept. It's not like the documentation is so well founded that it's without dispute, and people do like to try to throw some, well, they could just be making it up, or we don't know what really happened back then, doubt on historical records. But through the years, especially in medieval times, there were a number of midwives or women who became known for their renowned ability to not only identify a woman who was pregnant, but then being able to make such predictions through the pregnancy at various times with such accuracy, and they weren't relying on weird voodoo. A lot of them were listening to the baby inside the womb, or, like, there's a superstition that when you have a boy, you end up in that
Carry low.
You carry low, and I've seen it before. You carry low, and your stomach is out more than it normally is with other pregnancies.
Like, I've heard this. I've also heard so many people talk about how they carried low and it was a girl. So
And that's,
See, and
it's not a perfect science. Usually carry low is more associated with size.
yeah.
as the resident parent, person who has been pregnant, all of the old wives' tales for both of my boys were incorrect. All of them said I was having a girl both times, and that was heart rate, that was how you're carrying, that was whether you're having heartburn or not, whether you are craving sweet or salty foods.
That one's bullshit.
There's even like a pee one, like the acidity of your pee, and I tried that test, and that also said I was having a girl both times, and I have 2 boys, as far as I know. So I mean, if they both come out as translator, then I could be like, okay, well maybe this it was onto something.
But
As
at
of
this
now,
moment. The sweet and salty, that one I know for a fact is...
no, yeah, there's a
that's-
bunch of bullshit ones that are just for fun.
Yeah.
You know, there's like the Chinese zodiac chart, like a specific, like when your due date is and your birthday, and it measures whatever. There's also one that was just fun to do, which was like a pendulum thing where you take a necklace
I've
and you
seen
hold
that.
it over your stomach, and if it goes like, I can't remember which is which, of course, but if it goes side to side, it's one, and if it goes in a circle, it's the other.
Oh, I
And it's
heard
just, yeah.
counterclockwise was boy and clockwise was girl.
Oh no, I
Or
didn't hear that one. I
There's
just
probably
heard-
several versions.
Yeah.
As we mentioned here, we have the realization that healers can usually make a pretty good guess when someone's along, and we get this back and forth about, like, this back and forth growing between Violet, Violet and Rhiannon is how I'm going to describe it. It progresses into, it's a shame you can't hear from your family, and we hear exactly how Violet feels about this, and I don't entirely disagree with Violet on this stance, which is like, it's bullshit. That's my fucking sibling, and whether or not I've had a chance to talk to them for a year, if they send me a letter, I'm probably gonna feel the same after the year as I would before the year, right? Like,
Yep. She specifically says that there are bonds that can't be broken, which is a very apt thing to say when we're talking about presentation and dragons.
and 2 books later, we have quite the experience that occurs, but yes, you're absolutely correct.
Yes. I also think it is an interesting rule, and I can see it more as being a rule for, like, love interests and friends and things like that, because yeah, I agree with Violet that not having correspondence from your family is not going to really affect you.
Well, or even like,
But
I could maybe even see an argument of we don't want you writing to your parents and crying to mommy every other letter, as much as that's a
yeah,
horrible phrasing. Like, they don't
Yeah.
want them to look to their family for the support that they should be building for themselves, right?
that's also valid.
It also really just makes me think of another Instagram person that I love following, the curly haired book talk guy that like did the whole series of videos of like, I don't understand people who are only children. If you try to say someone is like your sibling to me and you haven't gone to fucking fist with them at least 5 times over the lifetime of your relationship, I don't believe you. If you and this person are not equally ready to annihilate each other and annihilate any person who so much as looks at them,
Yes, that's
you are
yeah,
not
that
actually
is.
someone's sibling. And so, makes me so happy.
I had a moment in the middle of that conversation where I felt Drew's influence in my brain. I haven't decided if it's welcome or not yet. Um, but when she's talking about like, so she's in the middle of starting this conversation, and she's also like, "Oh, I'm trying not to make eye contact," and she's like, "Breathe normally, swallow the fear." And in my brain, I continued, "Fear is the mind killer, and it will also get you real killed."
Did Drew start reciting the Dune mantra, fear is the little death that erases,
He
or I can't remember
actually,
it. The litany of fear.
yeah, the litany of fear. I don't. I think the last time that I heard him say this, he was facilitating our little neighborhood group, one of our meetings, and we usually we call it a land acknowledgement, but it's not always an acknowledgement. Sometimes it's like a fun fact about like a bit of relevant local native culture or something like that. And so the first time he didn't exactly know like how it worked, and the time before someone had brought in a prayer, and so so for his first time he brought in the litany of fear and read that off. And it wasn't like not in keeping with some of the stuff we bring in. It was just very funny.
Yeah. I'm gonna read it here because I looked it up and there may be some readers. So what we're referencing is the little, if you've watched the movie Dune, or obviously if any of the listeners have read the book Dune, then they know exactly what we're talking about. But it's the litany that the Bene Gesserit use to school fear as it occurs inside of them. So it's, I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain.
I mean, it's pretty good.
It's very fitting. It's very fitting.
It is. It is. It is. I've heard people who have started to use it as like an anxiety mantra and are like, it's upsettingly helpful.
I can see that absolutely.
It is so helpful if you can actually fucking remember it all. I am so bad about remembering
Yes.
shit like that.
This is where like the write your affirmations on a sticky note and put them on the mirror. Like, just put that on the mirror.
Yo, I swear, I searched Litany of Fear and the second line was tattoo, and I'm like, yeah, I could see that all just in a line on my arm.
just read the forearm.
Yep, anytime I see something that causes me fear, recite again, please. And again, we have Tynan deciding to interrupt the conversation and the bonding that's occurring with assholeryship. As he starts to make very inappropriate comparisons between Violet and her sister.
Yeah.
Only to be reminded by Violet that it's very, very, very likely that Mira would just kill him where he stood rather than deal with an ounce of his bullshit. Mm-hmm. And then he makes what has to be the lewdest comment ever made. Maybe I'll write a letter of my own once we get privileges. Bitch, please. That's almost like a
You're not ever getting privileges.
Right, like that was almost a your mom joke.
Yeah. I hate him.
And then, of course, Rhiannon, figuring out what was happening here, steps in again and continues the conversation about whether or not she'd like to have a nephew or a niece. I don't understand why we couldn't just generically accept nibblings as the correct word here.
I mean, it is kind of a weird word. Like, I wish we had a better one.
I do too.
Normalize nibblings.
Do we have a gender neutral for, like, uncle or aunt?
Not really.
Well, I mean, is there one that's, like, commonly used?
No, I've heard people ask about this before, and I haven't heard any real consensus of an answer.
That is one of the few gender neutrals, yes, that I am not familiar with at all. But I will share this because I just saw it on social media. I am entirely for this. You have Mr., Miss,
oh yeah, this one,
and Mrs., right?
Mm-hmm.
But did you know that all of them are based off of the Old English word magister, which, believe it or not, is based off of the even older word mage. And so I am on the gender neutral Mr., Miss, Mrs. is mage. I'm mage.
Love that.
Please cut my last name because I didn't mean to say it on podcast there.
I'll cut it. I'll bleep it. I'll bleep it so we can keep the
mage
commentary. Yep.
Thank you. And so yes, I am all for referring to people as mages because we need more magic in this world.
Amen.
Also, it sounds fancy. Like when people are like, there's sir and madam, but then what do we call anyone else? And there's like people throw out random things that are usually like formal titles from like the military or whatever. But
gentlemen
mage
and scholars
feels formal enough and cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mr., Mrs., and mages. And again, Rhiannon's like, boys aren't too bad. Only to have Violet chime in.
And I'm like, are you sure? Case in point, Tynan.
Yep.
I love that you say that because the example that we get is my brother and Dane, and it's basically just Dane. And I also want to comment because, like, you called this out during the epigraph here. We get this little note from Violet's perspective here that the smell of sulfur has faded as though she has become used to it.
Yeah.
I wonder if that is common as potential bonds start forming around you. I wonder if that, like, because as the dragons are walking along, they're potentially, like, magic probing these riders and being like, do I like your magic feels? Right? Like, I'm gonna pick you up and do I like the feel of this magic? Do not make that face at me, Cassie. The number of times I've watched you touch a fabric to decide whether or not you like it, and the number of ways that I can describe the correct tongue texture of oat milk.
I'm sorry, I was just picturing them, like, lifting someone's aura out of their body and, like, lifting it and placing
and, like,
it back.
Right, just, like, bouncing it a little bit, jiggling it to see if they can hear the juices.
This might be inappropriate, but I am breastfeeding my son, and I often forget which side I fed him last on, and so I do, like, a little, like, I weigh my breasts to see which one feels heavier. So I'm kind of like, huh.
So, I feel we have validated that the dragons are definitely, like, magic probing a little bit here. Since all of us can describe one way or another that we've held something up and weighed it. You're lifting your boobs. I'm talking about oat milk on my tongue, and Cassie's over here with fabric. Like,
I mean, I'm sure there are more examples that we don't need to name.
Yes.
I just want to say that, like, as the resident perfume addict, like,
smells.
It's going nose blind is a pretty normal process if you've been smelling something constantly. So I don't know that this has to have anything to do with the magic or the bonding.
I think it's happening regardless, but yeah.
Yeah, you never know. Either way. And of course, Violet redirects back into, Dane's gonna give me shit just like Amber Mavis did.
Mm-hmm. Fucking Dane.
Fucking. And we get this lovely line. Is the way that the dragons stare at us scary as hell? Absolutely. But they're here for the same shit we are, so maybe they won't burn me.
Mm-hmm.
And we have notably passed the halfway mark. And Rhiannon brings the conversation back to a more personal note. She begins to wonder why Violet did not share the plans that Violet was creating to get through the gauntlet when Violet was making the plans. Why wasn't Violet open and forthright about the plan with the rope? Or even more so, the plan with the dagger?
Because Rebecca had to keep it secret from the reader, so she couldn't have Violet go telling other people.
Well, also, because this is one of Violet's key characteristics, is she is not going to bother other people. She's going to keep things close to her chest. And I'm like, I wrote down, get used to it, Ree, because this is the first instance of many where she is not going to be confiding in you.
And,
Yes,
I want to call out here, you're saying it's one of Violet's key characteristics?
Oh, and Zayden's, if that's what we're talking about.
I can go further. I think that that's a key characteristic of every dragon rider we have met so far. Name a dragon rider who doesn't try to put the weight of the world on their shoulders. Who doesn't try to throw themselves into the middle of everything.
Well, yeah, but I feel like that's a little different than not confiding, because we know, I feel like Rhiannon is very, very upfront and, turning towards her friends. And I would say even, like, Riddick and Sawyer are too, where, yes, they're still going to, take the world onto their shoulders, but I don't think that they're as inclined to try to do it by themselves.
They're less about the secrets and doing it.
So I'm going to call you on that one because Riddick, how do I want to phrase this? No, I'm going to start with Rhiannon. Rhiannon internalizes the actual act of being a squad leader all through the second and third book, right? Like, Rhiannon is on this constant struggle of, these are my friends and I want to protect them, but I'm also their squad leader and it's my job to order them to the front line.
Doesn't she have a couple conversations about that, though?
No. Violet calls her on it and says, I know you're thinking it, stop. Okay. But they never actually talk about it until we get to her perspective. And that's when when her dragon basically starts calling her on it and saying, you can't constantly keep putting yourself responsible for people that are not currently in your direct line of command. Violet is not in your direct line of command in this mission. You can worry for her, but you cannot let it compromise you. The other one I was going to point out is, like, Riddick goes out of his way to find some way to prove to the others that he is not just a class clown with the ability to, like, as we find out later, freeze a fucking wyvern to death. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I feel like it is almost a inherent trait of being a dragon rider that you have to have the right mixture of ego and, I don't know what the right word is, to throw yourself into solving whatever the problem is, even if it means throwing yourself on it.
Hero syndrome?
Hero syndrome. Superhero syndrome.
I think hubris is the
right word I'm looking for. You're right. It's also called the greater fool, but...
I'll give you that they all try to protect each other by taking everything on. But Violet says, I didn't want you to be an accomplice. And I was like, isn't that what you guys, isn't that what friends are supposed to be? Your accomplices, your partners in crime, your backup.
Literally, they become her partners in crime,
Right, literally.
Quite literally in many, 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 many instances.
So when she's talking about how, basically protecting your friend by keeping secrets, it's just what friends do. And it's like, you know what they also do? Actually make each other accomplices.
Yes.
Yep.
The quote I was looking for, and I love that I just keep quoting all of these other sources that are not our book, but this comes from the Newsroom, which was written by Aaron Sorkin. I'm only going to use a small part of the quote. The greater fool is someone with the perfect blend of self-delusion and ego to think that he can succeed where others have failed. The quote ends with, this whole country was made by greater fools. So... I'm not saying that it isn't valid. I'm not saying that it isn't something that happens. I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure that this whole, it's a Dragon Rider thing. It's a Dragon Rider thing. Ain't nothing but a Dragon Rider.
That's fair. Violet just has more secrets to keep.
This is also true.
And they impact other people more.
And she has a very good, like, Violet is smart, and smart people do not have a hard time finding excuses to do something, right?
Oh, we're so good at rationalizing as a species in general, and then also as, like, the smarter you are, the easier it is to rationalize dumb stuff.
Right? And so even if the motivation really was, I just didn't want people to know it's what I was going to do in case they shot me with an arrow as soon as I tried to do it. But really, her rationality is, I didn't want to drag you down with me. I didn't want to sully your name with my bad plans. Which is hilarious, because, like, do you think the dragons would have taken the time to question Rhiannon about whether or not she knew Violet was going to do that before they decide to start roasting someone? It's the whole thing does not pass the sniff check when you actually give it time to pass the sniff check.
Yeah.
But as we know, our characters are not really in a good place to test whether something passes the sniff check.
They're too busy smelling sulfur.
Of course, Rhiannon does ask that tell-all question that will become the key pivotal part of their relationship for a while now. Are you keeping any other secrets up there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course. Let me just redirect with philosophy, intelligence, poise. And really, that is quite a wonderful flirting line. Like, some guy asks if you're keeping any secrets from him, and you can be like, well, does anyone really know everyone? And, like, such a flirty line. I'm sorry.
It is.
Only to have Rhiannon totally call her on it. And then Violet, our girl Violet, decides instead she'll make a promise rather than, again, having to reveal that she is, in fact, keeping some secrets from some folks. And she makes the promise that if there is ever something that Rhiannon can do to help her, Violet will ask her to help her. She will not stop from letting Rhiannon help her, basically. Mm-hmm. And they're friends again.
But Rhiannon has to promise the same, and then I'm picturing, like, a little, like... kind of pretending from really far away, pinky promising.
Air pinky promise.
Pinky
yeah,
swear.
air pinky promise from 7 feet away with dragons on either side of them, just staring at them like...
Little wiggle.
I'm constantly reminded of, like, the perspective of Tynan, who is like, he's 80 years old, or almost 100 years old, and he decided to bond a 20-year-old hyper-hormone-filled like, I'm just imagining these dragons watching these little hormone-filled bags of teenager walking by, like, do I really want to do this? I know it gets better, but, like, I have to raise them first.
It's like picking out a kitten. You're like, ugh. They're just so chaotic, get into so much trouble, and I have to guide them through everything.
Mm-hmm.
We get a nice little shout out from Tynan, who of course has to mock everybody, but does happen to inform us that we are getting close to the end, which means we are approaching a very key moment for all of us.
Yes.
As Tynan goes on about how he can't figure out what dragon he wants to choose, we come across a dragon that really will define the rest of the series.
So shiny. Oh.
Before we get to that, I do like to call out, with arrogance like that, I'm sure any dragon would feel lucky to share your mind with you the rest of your life. Like, oh, beautiful.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Those are the lines I'm here for.
So, a little peek behind the curtain here. We were recording late into the night last night. We were only supposed to record for an hour, and that quickly turned into, 2 hours? And it was everyone's bedtime. So we had to stop, but it is the next day, and we are reconvening in chapter 12. So, John, do you want to pick us back up where we left off, please?
Absolutely. So we had just passed the line. With arrogance like that, I'm sure any dragon will feel lucky to share your mind for the rest of your life. Which also, side note, we all keep talking about how much we would like a dragon. Would you enjoy having someone that nosy, always in your fucking business, with no ability to stop it?
I think yes.
Maybe not.
I think honestly yes, because A, I'm a nosy bitch, and game respects game. B, I don't know. Sometimes I have a really hard time, like, describing what I'm thinking and my feelings. And so I think just having someone that just like knows and is in my head would be refreshing. Also, I love talking. So I love telling everybody my business. I want you to know my business. I want to know your business. So I think personally this would be like a dream come true, especially if they're like if it's a relationship like Riddick and Utrum, or if it's like Tynan and Darna, like the sassiness. Like I love quipping. I love doing like little snide remarks back and forth. So I think I would have a good time.
Those are great points. However, I have the do not wish to be perceived mood in person all the time. I definitely don't need performance anxiety about my own thoughts.
This is also where I'm coming from. I love that you brought up Riddick and Atrium because I was just thinking about the fact that, like, I'm going on about how you can't keep anything from your dragon. Somehow Riddick bought an entire bucket of itching powder, snuck it into the flight field, and managed to get it onto his dragon's back to dump all over his dragon. His dragon had no fucking idea what was going on. So clearly, you can keep some boundaries from some amount of time, but that just also makes me wonder how much, like, how strong Riddick's shields have to be and how practiced he has to be at shielding because...
Or his dragon's less nosy.
Yeah.
Or both, yeah. Call him A, call him B.
Okay, the rest of the squad is gathered around as they are coming around this last bend, and we enter what will be a very interesting moment. I will give a little moment here to call out in the graphic audio version of the audiobooks, the background music literally changes at this exact moment
like,
into like
choir of angels.
Kind of, it's like idyllic nature. Whoa. Background noise. And it's like, I wonder, are we meeting someone magical? Tynan gives us our first reaction, and this entire exchange here, I swear to God, I'll show my book to the others, but the amount of red underlining is all of the shit talking that these people do about Andarna. And all I can keep thinking is, given the fact that they're all clustered together and Violet is in there, I can understand why they didn't just incinerate the group standing right then and there. But folks should have been dying as soon as they separated away. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I have it written down. Why in the world wasn't Tynan immediately incinerated for saying that they should kill Andarna? Like,
right?
Yeah.
Like, they spread back. Like, he should be dead already. Like, it makes
even,
no sense.
They shouldn't even get to the point where they're colluding in my chapter.
I know. And I do have, like one little thing that I thought of that we'll get to once we get to Andarna in Threshing of possibly the other dragons are like, you left the veil on your own accord against our wishes, against our recommendation. So whatever happens to you is on you now. So that's like the only thing that I can see, but I'm still like, I don't know.
No,
it still just doesn't make sense to me.
I've got a little head theory that I've been working on here, and I got an idea that might go with us. But let's keep going here. We get a what the hell, and they keep walking as everyone's gaze becomes transfixed on the golden feather-tailed dragon at the end of the line, who is described to be beautiful with sharp teeth, quick darting movements, and is probably only a few feet taller than our girl Violet. Which means that technically Andarna is currently How to Train Your Dragon sized. For reference for everybody.
Yes, great point.
And then this next line here, I underlined it and then just wrote Newton Ball Cadets. Because I've got this image in my head of everybody in the line looking to the side and not looking forward and just like going until they collide with the person that was 7 feet ahead of them, at which point that person like, keeps going and loses their transfixion, but the other person is still kind of like stuck there and dazed until the next Newton Ball is. Yeah, Newton Ball Cadets. And then so this is where my first moment was like, a dragon needs to just lean forward with his head and chomp really hard. Tynan says, who the hell would bond that thing? And I literally just wrote, kill him.
Yep. You're dead. Go away.
Luca decides to come in by saying it's fucking yellow, too small to carry a brighter, and not even powerful enough to be a real color, which is like,
Go Go fuck yourself, Luca.
And I will be honest for a moment here. Sawyer got himself almost in trouble because he says maybe it's a mistake, and I'm like, you never call a dragon a mistake. A dragon is never a mistake.
Yeah.
But then he corrects.
He is halfway right, though.
Yeah, maybe it's a baby orange. So like, that's where I'm like, it's kind of redeeming, but I wouldn't have phrased it that way, my friend.
Yeah.
I
could see him.
It's a mistake that it's here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But still, yeah, maybe keep that thought on the inside, Sawyer. Cassie, really quick, I just want to say that I'm really appreciating your braid necklace right now.
Thank you. I was just playing with it, and I was like, oh, wait, this is kind of cute.
I can't stand my hair on my neck, so I don't know how you can stand that.
I hate my hair anywhere on my body at all.
It's braided, so it's like, there aren't, like, pieces, like, because what I don't like is, like, one hair by itself somewhere.
I'm very purposely going through all of the red first, and then I'm going to go back and do the blue, which was the good comment. So going through this conversation here, Tynan says who would bond that thing. Luca gives us all these nasties. Tynan says it's a mistake, all right. Then compares it to Violet by saying they're both freakishly weak. And then Luca backs us up by saying it is golden and small, much like our petite silver-haired friend. Before Tynan decides to really just finish it out by saying someone should kill it, it's just going to get its rider killed. Again,
it's fucked.
If I were any of the dragons anywhere in this vicinity, that cadet is like, you don't have the... It's a crime for dragons to kill other dragons. A human plans to kill a dragon, you kill it right then and there because you're stupid.
Yeah, you can't stand for that.
Yeah.
Also, now he's on board with... It's not like we get a choice of bonding.
So which I love because I put an underline on this one. Riddick says you're just picking up on that now, are you? Which I'm like, what I love is you just called him stupid without calling him stupid, which is like...
Well, yeah, he's been out here being like, which one am I going to pick?
No, I think it's even funnier given the fact that they just had the whole argument of you do not insult other cadets in front of unbonded dragons. And Riddick comes in with this, well, fine, I won't insult him, but I'm still going to insult him. Going back through the conversation again here, we had positive comments. Violet is like, you realize, A, the dragons can hear you. Rhiannon argues it has to be fully grown. Dragons would never let a baby bond. We haven't ever seen a baby before. Violet points out that it looks powerful enough to burn him to death. And, of course, Sawyer makes the comment that we do not ever say things about a squad mate, negative things about a squad mate, especially in front of unbonded dragons, and don't make a mistake in front of them. We don't know what they'll do. Actually, that last one came from Trina, sorry. Which I also found notable because, if I remember right, Trina is the quiet one in the squad.
Yes.
That's why she's whispering.
Yes. Yes. And so we have this, like, really interesting moment here because, of course, we have Trina and Nope, I got those wrong. Tynan and Luca. Too many names are in my head right now. Tynan and Luca.
It's okay. They're about to be winnowed down, so you don't have to remember as many.
No, this is true. Who are both saying these horrible negative things. And then we have the group that are saying the positive things. Clearly, we know that most of the positive, or all the positives, are doing pretty okay, right? But we have this distinction here between Tynan and Luca. Because, really, both of them are... Tynan's really the worst one here. But Luca, we know, is going to be the one that goes, right? And so I make this comment here. They're all together clustered up at this moment. So the dragons that are around this section are not doing anything. I would also speculate that some of the conversation, not all of the conversation, but some of the conversation that we're hearing was not uncommon for other squads coming up to this area, right?
Sure.
Some level of disbelief and...
Like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Yeah. And so my interpretation is the dragons that are around Andarna are not only kind of a little bit used to this, but then also are hearing Andarna say, that's the girl I came here for, torch them, and I will start tearing scales off of you as fast as I can.
Yeah, that's a great point because we do know that she hatched specifically for Violet.
Right? And then the next thing that we have here is Tynan pushes past Pryor to start down the path, commenting on the fact that Pryor can't make up any decisions. And so the only conclusion I can come to here as to why Tynan was not torched by the other dragons as he went back down the path was simply because he was so far away from Violet in the order that he didn't have any inspiration to be negative, and he was just doing his whole, I'm going to focus on me and be selfish and try to figure out which dragon is mine because I'm superior and I'm a... Yeah, I'm sorry. Versus Luca is actually near the back with Violet and the crew, which means that she has this opportunity to be nasty. And that's my thing, is I think that they all were, a few of them were on a one strike notice. Give me one reason to burn you, and the dragons along the rest of the line will take care of it for us. And the only reason Tynan didn't get torched is because he was smart enough to go first and get away from Violet.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Thus, as far as I have notes, endeth the conversation regarding Andarna. On our walk back down the path, we are halfway through our leisurely walk through the Meadow of Death. We get Luca saying that the dragons are, to her, underwhelming. And I love Rhee's immediate response back. Like, this isn't stressful enough without you insulting them.
Yeah. Like, it's like they're asking to die. I'm like, what are you like, there's a difference between being like, okay, you need to like project like confidence. And, you know, like you're brave and whatever. And it's like, there's a difference between being like, oh, okay, I can handle this, and being like, yeah, honestly, it's not even that impressive.
It's giving real red shirt vibes.
I get that reference.
Yes. And then we enter what I believe to be the actual kind of more impressive aspect of this chapter, which is the discussion with regard to Wyvern.
Yes.
Because as I was going through this, and I think the same thing every time I come to this section of the story, they already know so fucking much and don't even realize it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we get this back and forth of, well, you don't know what a wyvern is, it's folklore, but then they come in that they are bigger than dragons, 2 feet instead of 4, razor-sharp feathers down their neck, and a penchant for going after humans. It says that they like the taste of humans, but I rephrase that to a penchant for going after humans, because...
Probably, yeah.
I kind of have this headcanon that dragons don't like eating things that can can actually communicate in complete sentences. You know what like
except
sentience.
for Andarna, because she has to be reminded that we do not eat her allies.
Young dragons might be a fun exception.
It comes with maturity.
Yes.
And so it's my understanding that dragons have no desire to kill humans unless they have to. But we know that wyvern are tools, not sentience, and so it would make sense that they would have a penchant for going after humans, right? The way they would be known for attacking humans or eating humans. But then what I love about this is that's all coming from Violet, our girl Violet. We already know that she has a pretty decent source for information with regard to wyvern. What surprises me to hell and back is our girl Rhee. Their eerie-eyed venin riders would take us prisoner if we took trees we weren't allowed to have. And then later, she comes back with, did he tell you people supposedly only turn into venin if they channel directly from the source? So Rhiannon already knows almost as much as Violet does with regard to wyvern and venin, which is insane. Sorry.
Yep. And I'm just like, I wonder what the dragons are thinking. Like, what's going through their head as they're hearing this conversation? You know what I mean? Like, uh-oh. Or are they like, yes, good. I'm glad you know.
It's probably a mix.
yeah, some on each.
And then, like, flashing this forward to when the squad actually gets confirmation that wyvern exists, when Violet finally confesses to the squad, and they check with the dragons, and those dragons are shocked that they actually know.
Yeah.
Yet the dragons that bonded these cadets are literally in this valley, probably capable of hearing any conversation the entire length of the valley.
Oh, yeah.
But I guess it's the difference between like knowing of like unicorns and then finding out that they're like, oh,
Like,
you actually know they're real now.
confirmed. Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah, but then it's... I don't know if I completely agree with that, because it's like, the dragons know unicorns exist. And so I guess it's almost like, in our world, hearing about the giant squid and then, oh shit, 10 years ago we figured out that the giant squid is actually real. Does that...
I mean, I don't like, for the purposes of my point, I don't really feel like there's a difference. It's just like
Okay.
the difference isn't like, oh, you've heard of this it's not that they care if you've heard of the concept. It's like, oh, but now you know that if it's real or not. Like, I
This
didn't
is
realize
fair.
that you'd caught on.
Very fair. Okay. And then we get this fun little headcanon. I still believe like, I know we've had so many debates. Has Mama Sorengale turned or not? Is Mama Sorengale a venin or not? If Mama Sorengale were a venin, this would be evidence towards it. We have this moment where she
Yes.
comes in with red-rimmed eyes that Violet describes as bloodshot, and screams her little head off because there's a venin, to which all of the guards come running. So part of me wonders of like, what captain in the infantry is aware that venin exists and is like, shit, that's not supposed to be there, run!
Yeah. Yeah, I wrote, okay, but were they really bloodshot? Because I'm like, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah,
Maybe she
I
just
don't,
had really bad allergies that day.
or, I mean, the explanation being that she was just exhausted. So,
Yeah. I've just
yeah,
never seen eyes actually be red from exhaustion.
same.
I've seen them be red
Oh.
from lots of other things.
I was gonna say exhaustion, especially if you like, it usually requires a full 24 hours awake to get to approaching bloodshot eyes from exhaustion, but mine do it really hard at the 24-hour mark. But you're right, allergies are also a thing, and for me, living over here where I live right now, my allergies have decided to go haywire the last couple of weeks, and so now I'm on every allergy medication under the sun to keep my eyes from going bloodshot, so...
Or my alternative suggestion is that maybe her contacts were just irritating her eyes. Because that's why my eyes usually get red.
Or she's a venin.
Yes.
Clearly
there
the
could
most
be many
likely,
reasons, but we like that one the most. And then, of course, we get this back and forth about how it's border village nonsense before Reed decides to prod Pryor and say, you can walk a little faster up there if you want. And we get his trepidation. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. And this is the one moment where I'm just kind of like, of course it's a red that decides that this is not allowed to stand.
Yep. Classic red.
And we lose Pryor. First death, to our knowledge, well, I guess not the first death, because we heard about someone getting burned earlier before they went
Yeah.
into the... I've looked ahead to see how many people died during this little leisurely stroll through the meadow, and
We get a number in the next chapter.
yes, would you guys like me to share it now?
Sure.
22 people out of the quadrant end up getting burned on this walk.
Yep.
And we witnessed 2 of them, with a third in the background.
Yes. I have a note when we get to that in the next chapter that it's like, unless they died in the 2 days between then, or the day and a half or whatever. But I don't, yeah. I like to just say that it's...
Unlikely.
I thought this was the day before. I thought you present and then the next day you walk into the flight field.
I thought that too, but when I was writing notes for the chapter, it says...
Yeah, what day is presentation?
It's like 2 days after.
Because, yeah, threshing is October 1st.
It definitely makes it seem like presentation and gauntlet happen on the same day, because the morning is gauntlet and the
They
afternoon
do.
is presentation.
Yeah, those are the same day, but then
Yes.
when is threshing?
Oh, I found it. So Dane tried to talk her into a brown. I've only talked to him once in the past 2 days since presentation.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just made like a little note, like it could have been from some unrelated thing, but I most likely,
Right.
yes, 20
I
days
had a
away.
little bit of that thought of my mind too, of what happens if you go through presentation and then you hear through the scuttlebutt of the squadron that the squadron hear through the gossip that someone else has their eye on the same dragon as you,
Yeah.
would it be considered unreasonable to quietly take them out in a
I don't think so.
undisclosed location?
I'm
I
sure
don't
it's
think
happened.
so. As long as they're not sleeping, I think it's totally chill.
Yeah. And so I see your point. They could have died by other ways, but I like the headcanon that the dragons took out 22 riders. Or cadets.
Agreed. They're Swifties. They don't know about you, but they are feeling 22.
Okay, hold. I have the playlist. Oh, but I don't have I took out all the Taylor Swift songs.
John! I don't think we're friends anymore.
You're being excommunicated.
Rebecca is such a huge Swiftie. Oh my god. You can't take out
Yaros
the
is
Taylor Swift songs.
But I think the song 22 was in the playlist for this book, so
Amazing.
headcanon just got reinforced.
I can't wait till we finish this book and we can dive into that for a bonus episode. I have not looked at the playlist yet.
I haven't either.
Yeah, I put I built my own version of them in my phone because I wanted to be able to listen to them, but I can't. Our girl Rebecca Yaros is a Swiftie to extreme measures.
And I can kind of excuse you cutting out more of the like teeny bopper Taylor Swift songs. Like, I get it, especially they're played on the radio all the time. They can be a little much. Taylor Swift is not very good at selecting singles because her her discography is much better than 22 and Shake It Off. And yeah, in the fandom we have a lot of gripes on the singles that she chooses because there's much better.
They are the ones that fit the most standard pop vibe, which is probably what she's like, these will probably do best on the radio.
Yeah.
Even if they're not actually the best songs.
Yeah.
I feel like that's normal for most artists.
I'm looking to see if I kept any of the civil. I didn't keep any of the Taylor Swift in this.
John, I one of these days I am going to convert you. I will.
Like I said, when it comes to the playlist for Onyx Storm, I kept a couple of them, but not many. Like Who's Afraid of Little Old Me? That one is.
Oh, that's such a bop. Oh, I love that song.
There's another one though that Willow and
Willow's excellent.
Oh, I love Willow.
I've said
John,
this before.
I think that you would really like Reputation. I'm a Reputation girly. Peek behind the curtain. We're recording May 26th. There's actually a rumor that she's going to drop or announce Reputation Taylor's version today. So far I haven't seen anything, so probably not. We probably were all just clowning again. However, I am a Reputation girly through and through. It is my favorite album, and John, I think that you would dig it. It's very sexy.
See, and I like what I've started to get into from Taylor Swift is not the sexy, it's when she actually like if you're gonna write a breakup song, it would be really nice if every single breakup song wasn't in a major key. Like, sometimes a breakup is just sad. And I
think that is a gross oversimplification.
So many of them are minor, like, if you've actually listened to a lot of her discography.
Well, and that's where I'm like, the songs that are starting to get to me are the post-Braun songs, where she, like, went back and started reevaluating what it was like to live through that time, is what I've kind of interpreted them as. And that is where it starts to get a lot more interesting to me. Okay, we're not going to make it through this chapter by our end time if we don't keep going.
We have 3 hours. Let's go.
So, of course, Pryor is dead, and we have to make sure that the fire is out before we keep walking.
Bye, Pryor.
And we get this comment, holy shit, are we insignificant?
You'd think that they'd get more, like, stop, drop, and roll lessons.
Which is so funny because I feel like we got so many stop, drop, and roll lessons as kids, and I'm like, when will I ever use this?
How often will someone catch on fire?
I thought catching on fire was going to be a bigger problem. That and quicksand. I'm like, these are real issues.
One of the only times I got in trouble as a kid, because I was such a rule follower, was we went on this field trip to the fire station, and we were all like in the garage and learning about stop, drop, and roll, and they wanted us all to like practice stop, drop, and roll like on the floor. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Not because of dirt or anything. Like, I was a dirty child. It was fine. But because I was like, this looks so silly and dumb. I don't want to look silly and dumb like everyone else. So I'm just going to stand here. And instead of explaining to me, like, we're helping you build the muscle memory so that in an emergency you don't have to think about it, and practice helps ingrain it into your habits, I just got in trouble and I couldn't go to recess like the next day until I did it.
Oh my god. Oh, Cassie.
But, you know, I was feeling really stubborn and I was like, I don't think this, like, I understand the concept. I don't need to do it and look stupid in front of everyone just because everyone else is.
Yeah.
Just because everyone else is rolling off a cliff doesn't...
You wouldn't jump like a leg.
Everyone else is stop, drop, and rolling off a cliff.
Oh, okay. That sounds like the next music hit. Stop, drop, and roll off a cliff.
Oh, goodness.
Of course, Luca has to chime in with, oh my god, the smell, which I do give Vi some credit here. There is such a thing as decency. I understand the smell is bad, but you just watched a human get burned in front of you, basically.
Yeah, it's like when someone farts, like, don't say anything about it. Just, like, let it be.
Or compliment them on the volume and breadth.
Yes, that too.
You had the throw on this.
We enter what will be the most stressful moment of the entire walk, when the dragons choose to engage.
Yep.
And so, of course, we have our little moment with Vi here, where she is surrounded by green dragons, sniffing and chortling and nudging and getting all up in her business until she realizes, oh shit, you're smelling the green dragon scales that are hidden in my armor that no one else can see.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you have like cat treats or catnip in your pocket and you just get swarmed.
Yes.
Like sniff, 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 sniff.
Mm-hmm.
Nose butt.
Our girl Vi does have a moment where she shouts in one of their ears, only to realize that she did so.
Oops, sorry.
And explains that she is Mira's sister Violet, that Mira made the armor for her, and that it has kept her alive even though it is a secret. I love that the reaction she gets from one is a blink and the other is a sniff. A really loud sniff.
Like, never thought of that.
We get this wonderful comment here. Professor K already taught us every way to approach a dragon, exactly 0 ways to disengage one.
Yeah, maybe we should add that to the lesson plan.
Seems important.
As they retreat, Rhiannon and I think we got Riddick on the other side right now, run up to Violet and try to reassure her, figuring out what's happening here. And Violet does manage to share one secret with Rhi here, disclosing the dragon armor she wears. I also love this other comment. Other than having a few years shaved off my life, she's fine.
Yep.
Been there, girl. Been
Okay,
there.
better comparison here. It's not actually like catnip or cat treats. It's like when you go on a walk and you pet a street cat and then you come home and your cats are like,
You
what
cheating bastard.
Wrong.
Mm-hmm. Dogs are even worse about it. If you go pet dogs on a walk and then come home, they will like sit on top of you and sniff every little ounce of it and then spend the rest of the day pouting.
Yep, can attest.
Riddick tunes in with, I think I just shat myself. And if you're going to shit yourself when they get that close to your friend, what are you going to do when one of them decides to get up close with you?
Well, he's gonna lose his lunch in the next, or his breakfast in the next chapter. More bodily excretions.
Fluids coming out of every orifice.
Cheers to that.
And then, of course, Luca has to chime in here, saying that she thought Violet was going to get eaten, wouldn't have blamed the dragons if they'd done it, and when everyone calls her out on it, she says, what? She's obviously the weakest link after Prior. Boo. And wouldn't blame the dragons for snuffing her out. And that's when we get a nice blast of heat from behind.
Speaking of snuffing.
Bum, bum, bum. Another one
Bites
bites the dust.
And then we get Riddick Tynan chiming in, guess the dragons think she's insufferable too. So what's notable here is going into Gauntlet, they were basically untouched. They hadn't lost a single cadet.
Editing Abby here to say, except for Orally.
Now they are down to 6. They've lost 2, and the dragons took both of them.
Yep.
Thus bringeth an end to our chapter. I don't know why I keep using this "thus bringeth an end."
You know what? I love it. It's great. Wow. That was entirely too long for that short of a... Oh, shit. 2.5 hours. I mean, some of that was us just talking, and that can get cut out. So
Yeah, take off like 20 minutes of today.
Good Lord. Okay. So I think that we should just go ahead and end it here.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So that will do it for us for this chapter. And until the next one, goodbye.
Night.
Cheerio.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Wing Readers. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at The Wing Readers, or you can send us an email at thewingreaders@gmail.com. It would mean the world to us for you to subscribe and rate us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. New episodes drop every Tuesday. We'll see you in Chapter 13.